Avery, we need to talk. Those 4 words echoed in my mind like a death knell, shattering the fragile peace of our suburban home. Declan's solemn expression betrayed the gravity of what was to come, and my heart sank, bracing for impact. "What is it?" I asked, my voice already trembling with trepidation. He shifted uncomfortably in his seat, averting his gaze. "I'm afraid I have some bad news. The business has been struggling, and we're in serious financial trouble. We can't keep up with the mortgage payments or the mounting debts." A knot formed in my throat as the implications sank in. "But how? We've always been so careful with our finances." Declan's jaw tightened and he exhaled deeply. "That's not all. I met someone else. Her name is Elise, and she's pregnant with my child." The world seemed to spin as his words pierced my heart like 1,000 daggers. Tears stung my eyes, and a wave of nausea washed over me. You cheated on me with another woman?" He nodded, his expression a mixture of guilt and resignation. "I'm sorry, Avery. I never meant for things to spiral out of control like this." Anger surged through my veins, momentarily overpowering the pain. "Sorry? You're sorry? Do you have any idea what you've done? What about our daughter, Lila? How could you do this to our family?" Declan's gaze finally met mine, his eyes reflecting a haunting emptiness. "I know this is devastating, but Elise's family is wealthy. They can provide the financial security we've been lacking." I recoiled as if struck, the weight of his betrayal crushing me. "So that's what this is about? Money? You're willing to sacrifice our marriage, our vows, for financial gain?" He shook his head, but his words rang hollow. "It's not that simple, Avery. Things haven't been right between us for a long time. We've grown apart." "Grown apart?" I scoffed, my voice dripping with disdain. "That's your justification for destroying everything we've built together? For shattering our family?" Declan rose from his seat, his expression hardening. "I'm sorry, but my decision is final. I've already spoken to a lawyer, and the eviction notice will be served tomorrow. You and Lila have 30 days to vacate the premises." The air seemed to vanish from my lungs as the weight of his words settled upon me. Evicted from my own home, cast aside like yesterday's garbage, all for the sake of his selfish desires and misguided pursuit of wealth. In that moment, something within me shifted. The pain and betrayal ignited a fire in my soul, a burning determination to protect my daughter and reclaim the life that had been so callously torn from us. "Don't worry, Declan," I spat, my voice trembling with a newfound resolve. "We'll be out of your hair long before then. But mark my words, this isn't over. You have no idea what you've unleashed." As I stormed out of the room, cradling Lila in my arms, I knew that this was merely the beginning. The unraveling of my life as I knew it had commenced, but from the ashes of betrayal a phoenix would rise, a force to be reckoned with, fueled by a mother's love and an unwavering thirst for justice. The days that followed were a blur of anguish and disbelief. As I packed our meager belongings, each item seemed to mock me, a reminder of the life I had built, the life that was now crumbling around me. Lila's innocent eyes gazed up at me, oblivious to the turmoil that threatened to consume us. How could I possibly explain to her that the man she called Daddy had betrayed us in the most despicable way? "Mommy, why are we leaving?" she asked, clutching her favorite stuffed bear. I fought back tears, mustering a reassuring smile. "We're going on a little adventure, sweetie. It'll be just you and me for a while." Her brow furrowed, sensing the tension in my voice. "But what about Daddy? Isn't he coming too?" "No, baby," I said, my voice wavering. "Daddy, he has to stay here." Then Miss Lila's lip trembled, and in that moment I saw a flicker of understanding in her eyes, a glimpse of the harsh reality that had shattered our world. As the days wore on, memories resurfaced, each one a painful reminder of the cracks that had been forming in our relationship long before Declan's ultimate betrayal. "You're working too much," he would say, his tone laced with disapproval. "The house is a mess, and Layla needs her mother." I would apologize profusely, promising to do better, to be more present, but the demands never ceased, and the criticism only grew more biting. "You've let yourself go, Avery. Is it really too much to ask that you make an effort for me?" His words cut deep, eroding my self-confidence and sense of worth. Slowly, without realizing it, I had allowed myself to become trapped in a cycle of appeasement, sacrificing my dreams and ambitions to please a man who was never truly satisfied. "Avery, are you listening to me?" Declan's voice snapped me back to the present, his piercing gaze fixed upon me. "Why?" asked, my voice laced with a newfound defiance. "I said, I need you to sign these divorce papers," he repeated, sliding the documents across the table. I eyed the stack of papers, a bitter taste rising in my mouth. "And if I refuse?" His eyes narrowed, a dangerous glint flashing across his features. "Then I'll make things very difficult for you and Lila. You wouldn't want her to suffer, would you?" A surge of anger coursed through my veins, igniting a fire within me that I had long suppressed. In that moment, I saw him for who he truly was. A manipulative, soulless monster who had stolen the best years of my life. "You're right, Declan," I said, my voice steady and resolute. "I wouldn't want Lila to suffer. But mark my words, you won't get away with this. I'll fight you every step of the way, and when the dust settles, you'll wish you had never crossed me." His smug expression faltered, a flicker of uncertainty crossing his features. For the first time he seemed to grasp the depth of my determination, the unwavering resolve that had been forged in the flames of his betrayal. As I signed the papers, a sense of liberation washed over me. The shackles of my past had been severed, and a new chapter was about to begin, one in which I would emerge victorious no matter the cost. The weight of Declan's betrayal hung heavy in the air, suffocating me with each breath. As I held Lila close, her tiny arms wrapped around my neck, I knew that I had to be strong. For her sake, if not my own. "Where are we going, Mommy?" she asked, her voice tinged with concern. I forced a smile, smoothing her hair gently. "We're going to stay with Aunt Emily for a little while, sweetie. It'll be like a sleepover." Her eyes lit up at the prospect of adventure, and I silently thanked the universe for the innocence of childhood. If only I could shield her from the harsh realities that threatened to consume us. As we arrived at Emily's doorstep, my sister's eyes widened in shock. "Avery? What's going on? Where's Declan?" I swallowed hard, fighting back the tears that threatened to spill forth. "He's gone, Em. He left us for another woman." Emily's expression darkened, her hands clenching into fists. "That son of a bitch! How could he do this to you? To Lila?" I shook my head, too drained to muster the energy for anger. "It doesn't matter now. We just need a place to stay, at least until I can figure things out." Emily ushered us inside, her arms enveloping us in a warm embrace. "Of course, you can stay as long as you need. We'll get through this together, I promise." Over the next few days, Emily became my lifeline, a constant source of support and guidance as I navigated the legal intricacies of divorce and child custody. With her help, I secured a consultation with a renowned family lawyer, determined to fight for what was rightfully ours. "Miss Carson, your case is strong," the lawyer assured me, her expression steely and resolute. "With the evidence you've provided, the financial records, the infidelity, and Mr. Hartley's blatant disregard for your well-being, we have a solid foundation to pursue child support, alimony, and potentially even sole custody of your daughter." A glimmer of hope flickered within me, a spark ignited by the prospect of justice. "Whatever it takes," I said, my voice unwavering. "I won't let Declan get away with this. He needs to face the consequences of his actions." The lawyer nodded, a faint smile playing on her lips. "Understood. We'll hit him where it hurts, his ego and his wallet." As I left the office, a newfound determination coursed through my veins. I would not be a victim, cowering in the shadows of Declan's treachery. I was a mother, a warrior, and I would fight with every ounce of strength I possessed to secure a better future for Lila and myself. That night, as I watched Lila sleep peacefully, her chest rising and falling with each gentle breath, a vow crystallized within my heart. No longer would I allow fear or doubt to dictate my path. I would emerge from this crucible stronger, more resilient, and more determined than ever before. Declan's betrayal had been a cruel awakening, but it had also opened my eyes to the depths of my own fortitude. He had underestimated me, and in doing so, he had sealed his own fate. For in the end, a mother's love knows no bounds, and I would stop at nothing to protect my child and claim the justice we deserved. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of preparation and strategic maneuvering. With Emily's unwavering support, I pored over every detail of my case, meticulously documenting every instance of Declan's deceit and financial misdeeds. "Are you sure you want to go through with this, Avery?" Emily asked one evening, her brow furrowed with concern. "This could get ugly, and Declan is a vindictive bastard." I nodded, my jaw set with determination. I have to do this, Em. Not just for me, but for Lila. She deserves better than a father who would abandon her for his own selfish desires. Emily sighed, a reluctant smile tugging at her lips. All right, then, let's take that son of a bitch down. As the legal proceedings commenced, Declan's true colors began to emerge, and the depth of his betrayal became increasingly apparent. It wasn't just a momentary lapse in judgment or a fleeting affair. It was a calculated, premeditated plan to secure his financial future at any cost. You see, Your Honor, Mr. Hartley has been systematically draining our joint accounts and diverting funds into offshore accounts for months, my lawyer stated, her voice ringing with righteous indignation. All the while, he was carrying on an illicit affair with a woman from a wealthy family, conspiring to leave his wife and child destitute. Declan shifted uncomfortably in his seat, his eyes darting around the courtroom like a cornered animal. That's a lie, he spat. Avery is just bitter and trying to take me for everything I've got. My lawyer arched an eyebrow, her gaze unwavering. Is that so? Then perhaps you can explain these bank statements and wire transfer records? As the evidence mounted, Declan's facade began to crumble. His smug demeanor melted away, revealing a desperate, grasping man willing to sacrifice everything for his own selfish gain. You're a disgrace, Declan, I said, my voice laced with a mixture of pity and disdain. All this time I thought I knew you, but I was just another pawn in your twisted game. He turned to face me, his eyes burning with a mixture of rage and fear. You think you've won, Avery? This isn't over. I'll make sure you and that brat of yours suffer for this. Before I could respond, the judge slammed his gavel, his booming voice reverberating through the courtroom. Enough, Mr. Hartley. You've shown a blatant disregard for the sanctity of your marriage and the well-being of your child. Your actions are reprehensible, and you will face the consequences. As the judge rendered his verdict, granting me full custody of Lila, the house, and a substantial settlement, a wave of relief washed over me. It was as if a heavy weight had been lifted from my shoulders, freeing me from the shackles of Declan's manipulation and lies. But as I looked into his eyes, I saw a glimmer of something far more dangerous than mere anger or resentment. It was a burning, all-consuming fury, fueled by wounded pride and a sense of entitlement that had been shattered by my refusal to be a victim. In that moment, I knew that this was far from over. Declan's wrath would be a force to be reckoned with, but I was no longer the meek, subservient woman he had taken for granted. I was a lioness, fiercely protecting her cub, and I would stop at nothing to ensure our safety and security, no matter the cost. The courtroom battle had been won, but the war was far from over. Declan's rage-filled glare burned into my memory, a constant reminder that his thirst for vengeance would not be easily quenched. We need to be careful, Avery, Emily cautioned as we packed our belongings. Declan is unhinged, and there's no telling what he might try. I nodded, my grip tightening around Lila's tiny hand. I know, but we can't live in fear. He's already taken enough from us. With the settlement money and my newfound determination, I secured a modest apartment in a quiet neighborhood, a fresh start, free from the toxic memories of our former life. Look, Mommy, Lila exclaimed, her eyes wide with wonder as she explored our new home. It's all ours. I couldn't help but smile at her infectious enthusiasm, her innocent joy a soothing balm for the wounds of betrayal. Yes, baby, it's all ours. As the days turned into weeks, I focused on rebuilding our lives piece by piece. I found solace in the routine of caring for Lila, reveling in her laughter and boundless energy. But the specter of Declan's wrath lingered, a dark cloud on the horizon that threatening to engulf us at any moment. One evening, as I tucked Lila into bed, the shrill ring of the phone pierced the silence. Apprehension gripped me as I answered, my heart pounding in my chest. Hello? Well, if it isn't the victorious Mrs. Hartley, Declan's voice dripped with venom. Enjoying your little taste of freedom? I steeled myself, refusing to be intimidated. What do you want, Declan? He chuckled, a sinister sound that sent shivers down my spine. Just checking in on my favorite ladies. Wouldn't want anything untoward to happen now, would we? Are you threatening us? I asked, my voice trembling with barely contained fury. Me? Never, he replied, his tone dripping with mock innocence. Just a friendly reminder that you haven't seen the last of me. This isn't over, Avery. Not by a long shot. The line went dead, leaving me shaken and seething with rage. How dare he try to instill fear in us after everything he'd done? In that moment, a newfound resolve took root within me. I would not be cowed, not by Declan's empty threats or his pathetic attempts at intimidation. I was a survivor, a fighter, and I would ensure that Lila grew up in a world free from the toxicity of her father's influence. The following day, I took the first step towards reclaiming my independence. With trembling hands, I submitted my application for a freelance consulting position. A tentative step back into the career I had once loved but abandoned for the sake of pleasing Declan. To my surprise, the offers began pouring in, each one a testament to my skills and expertise. It was as if a dormant part of me had been awakened, a phoenix rising from the ashes of my former life. As I immersed myself in my work, I felt a sense of purpose and fulfillment that had been missing for far too long. I was no longer just a wife or a mother. I was a woman in control of her own destiny, forging a path for herself and her daughter. And as for Declan, well, his threats and empty promises of retribution only served to fuel my determination. I was done being a victim, and if he dared to cross my path again, he would face the full force of my wrath. A mother's fury, unleashed and unstoppable. The day of the final divorce proceedings dawned with a palpable tension in the air. As I dressed for battle, smoothing my crisp suit and checking my notes one last time, a steely determination coursed through my veins. "You've got this, Avery," Emily said, squeezing my hand reassuringly. "That bastard doesn't stand a chance against you." I took a deep breath and nodded, my jaw set with resolve. "Let's do this." The courtroom was abuzz with hushed whispers and the shuffling of papers as Declan's legal team huddled together, no doubt plotting their last-ditch efforts to undermine my case. But I refused to be intimidated. Not this time. As the proceedings commenced, I could feel Declan's eyes boring into me, his gaze a mixture of hatred and desperation. But I met his stare with unwavering defiance, silently daring him to make a move. "Your Honor," my lawyer began, her voice ringing with confidence, "we have irrefutable evidence that Mr. Hartley has been engaging in a systematic campaign of financial deceit and emotional abuse against my client." Declan's lawyer leapt to his feet, his face flushed with indignation. "Objection! These allegations are baseless and nothing more than a vindictive attempt to slander my client's character." The judge raised a hand, silencing the outburst. "Overruled. Proceed, counselor." With a curt nod, my lawyer unveiled a damning array of evidence, bank statements, wire transfers, and even recorded phone conversations that laid bare the depth of Declan's duplicity. "As you can see, Your Honor," she stated, her voice laced with righteous indignation, "Mr. Hartley has been siphoning funds from his business and diverting them into offshore accounts for months, all while carrying on an illicit affair with a woman from a wealthy family." Declan's face contorted in rage, his knuckles whitening as he gripped the edge of the table. "You lying bitch!" he snarled, his eyes burning with fury. "You have no idea what you've done." The courtroom erupted into chaos as the judge pounded his gavel, demanding order. "Mr. Hartley, control yourself or you'll be held in contempt." But Declan was beyond reason, his carefully cultivated facade crumbling before our eyes. "You think you've won, Avery? You think taking everything from me will make you happy? This isn't over, not by a long shot." I met his gaze head-on, my voice steady and resolute. "It's over, Declan. Your lies, your deceit, your manipulation, it all ends here. You have no one to blame but yourself." As the judge rendered his verdict, granting me the house, a substantial settlement, and full custody of Lila, a weight seemed to lift from my shoulders. The shackles of Declan's toxic influence had been severed, and I was finally free. But as I turned to leave the courtroom, Declan's voice stopped me in my tracks. "You'll pay for this, Avery," he hissed, his eyes burning with unhinged fury. "If I can't have you, no one will." In that moment, I realized the true depths of his depravity, the twisted, possessive nature that had fueled his betrayal. But I refused to be cowed, refused to surrender to his threats and intimidation. "You're pathetic, Declan," I said, my voice ringing with a newfound strength and conviction. "And you have no power over me anymore." As I walked away, my head held high, I knew that a new chapter was beginning, one forged in the fires of adversity and tempered by the unwavering love of a mother for her child. The road ahead would not be easy, But with Lila by my side, I was unstoppable. And as for Declan, well, he would soon learn that when you cross a mother's path there is hell to pay. In the days following the divorce proceedings, a strange sense of calm settled over me. It was as if a weight had been lifted, a burden I'd carried for far too long finally cast aside. "You did it, Avery," Emily beamed, pulling me into a tight embrace. "That bastard finally got what was coming to him." I nodded, a small smile tugging at the corners of my mouth. "It's over. We're finally free of his toxicity." But even as the words left my lips, a nagging feeling of unease crept into the back of my mind. Declan's parting threat echoed like a distant rumble of thunder, a harbinger of storms yet to come. Little did I know, the true reckoning was only just beginning. It started with whispers, hushed murmurs that rippled through the social circles Declan and I had once inhabited. Rumors of his erratic behavior, his descent into a spiral of rage and self-destruction. "Did you hear about Declan Hartley?" One of the neighborhood gossips tittered, her eyes alight with salacious glee. "Apparently, he's been hitting the bottle hard since the divorce. Lost his job, his reputation, everything." I tried to dismiss the chatter, to rise above the pettiness and focus on rebuilding my life with Lila. But the seed of doubt had been planted, and I couldn't shake the feeling that Declan's wrath was simmering just beneath the surface, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Then, one fateful evening, the other shoe dropped. "Avery, you need to see this," Emily said, her voice trembling as she handed me her phone. There, splashed across the screen, was a series of grainy photographs. Declan, disheveled and unhinged, accosting a woman outside a bar. His face was twisted into a rictus of rage, his hands gripping her arms with bruising force. "Oh my God," I gasped, my heart pounding in my chest. "What has he done?" Emily shook her head, her eyes filled with a mixture of pity and contempt. "That's not all. Apparently, this isn't the first time he's lashed out like this. The rumors are swirling, and it's not pretty." As the sordid details began to emerge, a sickening realization took hold. Declan's descent into madness was not merely a byproduct of our divorce. It was a calculated ploy, a final act of vengeance against the woman who had dared to defy him. "He's unraveling, Avery," Emily warned, her voice laced with concern. "And if he's not careful, he's going to take everyone down with him." But even as the weight of Declan's self-destruction threatened to consume me, a strange sense of vindication began to take root. This was his karma, the cosmic scales finally balancing after years of his deceit and manipulation. And then, like a bolt of lightning illuminating the darkest recesses of my mind, a revelation struck. I held the power. With a newfound determination, I reached out to Elise, the woman who had once been Declan's illicit lover and the catalyst for our downfall. To my surprise, she responded with a candor and vulnerability that caught me off guard. "Avery, I'm so sorry," she said, her voice trembling with remorse. "I had no idea the depths of Declan's depravity until it was too late. He played us both, and now he's spiraling out of control." As we shared our stories, a bond formed. Two women united in their determination to break free from the toxic grip of a man who had nearly destroyed us both. "We can't let him continue down this path," I said, my voice steely with resolve. "It's time we took our power back, once and for all." Elise nodded, her eyes alight with a newfound fire. "Whatever it takes, I'm with you, Avery." And so, with our unlikely alliance forged in the crucible of Declan's betrayal, we set forth on a path that would not only reclaim our dignity, but also serve as a harsh lesson in the consequences of one man's hubris. For Declan had sown the seeds of his own destruction, and now it was time for us to reap the whirlwind. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of activity, a carefully orchestrated dance of retribution and redemption. With Elise by my side, we set forth on a mission to dismantle the toxic legacy Declan had left in his wake. "Are you sure about this, Avery?" Elise asked one evening, her brow furrowed with concern. "Once we go down this path, there's no turning back." I nodded, my jaw set with determination. "Absolutely. Declan needs to be held accountable for his actions, not just for our sake, but for every woman he's ever wronged." Elise's expression hardened, a steely resolve settling across her features. "Then, let's do this." Our first target was Declan's crumbling business empire. With a little digging, we uncovered a trail of financial improprieties and shady dealings that had been festering for years, hidden beneath the veneer of his success. "You see, Your Honor," I stated, my voice ringing with righteous indignation as we presented our findings to the court, "Mr. Hartley has been systematically defrauding his investors and partners, siphoning funds into offshore accounts for his personal gain." Declan's face contorted with rage, his knuckles whitening as he gripped the edge of the table. "You lying bitches," he snarled, his eyes burning with fury. "You have no idea what you've done." But it was too late. The evidence was overwhelming, and the judge had no choice but to rule in our favor. Declan's business was dissolved, his assets seized, and his once formidable empire reduced to rubble. Yet even as we savored our victory, we knew our work was far from over. Next, we turned our attention to the social circles that had once embraced Declan, the elite enclaves where his toxic influence had festered unchecked for far too long. "Ladies and gentlemen," Elise addressed the gathered crowd, her voice ringing with clarity and conviction, "we stand before you today to shed light on a harsh truth, the truth of one man's depravity and the countless lives he has ruined in his pursuit of power and wealth." As we laid bare the sordid details of Declan's misdeeds, the murmurs of disbelief gradually gave way to outrage. One by one, the pillars of his support crumbled, his erstwhile allies turning their backs on the man they had once embraced as their own. And through it all, Declan seethed, his rage spiraling ever deeper into the abyss of his own making. "You'll pay for this, Avery," he hissed, his eyes burning with unhinged fury. "You and that traitor Elise. I'll make sure you both suffer for what you've done." But his threats rang hollow, mere echoes of a man who had lost everything: his wealth, his power, his very identity. As the dust settled and the smoke cleared, a new reality emerged, one in which Declan Hartley was no longer a force to be reckoned with, but a cautionary tale, a living embodiment of the consequences that awaited those who dared to cross the line. And through it all, Lila remained my guiding light, my unwavering source of strength and resilience. With each victory, I saw her own confidence grow, her eyes shining with pride and admiration for the woman I had become. "Mommy, you're a superhero," she beamed one evening, snuggling close as we watched the sunset from our quiet little balcony. I smiled, pressing a gentle kiss to her forehead. "No, baby, I'm just a mother doing what she has to do to protect her family." And in that moment, I knew that our journey had been worth it. The scars of Declan's betrayal would never fully heal, but we had emerged from the ashes stronger, more resilient, and infinitely more powerful than ever before. For we were survivors, warriors in our own right, and no force on earth could ever break the unbreakable bond between a mother and her child.